Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Friday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. Slovenia loses in their opening game of Eurobasket, but Luka Dončić dominates. Plus, should Austin Reaves be the Lakers' sixth man? That is next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everyone for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday. No matter how, where you get your podcasts, this one's always free, never behind a paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 36,000 subscribers to the channel, all of whom, Andy, we're very excited to see the results of Luka Dončić's performance, at least in the opening game for Eurobasket, if not the results of the final score as Slovenia loses to Poland. But we'll break down Luka's big day. Plus, we'll dip back into the mailbag. We'll talk about Jeanie Buss, who gave a very interesting interview in Slovenia. While I remember we talked about the Lakers Brain Trust being present there for these games and to support Luka. So plenty to unpack. But first, Andy, we have to let people know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. So I think it's fair to say, Andy, a lot of Lakers fans now are rooting for Slovenia to find some success in the Eurobasket tournament. But first and foremost, even more than that, Lakers fans are rooting for Luka to find some success and look good. They got about half of what they wanted on Thursday, but probably the half they wanted more.
Well, I mean, if you're looking to unite all fans of Luka on some level, whether the ones that are rooting for Luka as much for Slovenia, they obviously want him to excel in that game and just get the win, or Laker fan firsts who just want to see Luka excel regardless of the setting, they both get what they want. Luka gets 34 points on 7 of 14 shooting, 17 of 18 at the line, 9 assists, 4 rebounds, 5 steals, 2 blocks, and even a tech. We are so back, baby. Luka is back in full form. Unfortunately, 105-95 loss to Poland. Really, I unfortunately was not able to watch this game. I was either on air with 710 ESPN or driving in the car to get to Spectrum Sportsnet, the Lakers TV partner, where I appeared on Access Sportsnet, Access Lakers for Spectrum Sportsnet. So unable to watch any of it, but it sounded like a lot of Luka, not much support.
Well, I mean, I watched a bunch of different highlight packages of the game, and I do appreciate, Andy, how many people are putting together these sizzle reels of Luka, and in particular, like possession by possession, basically all the good stuff Luka is doing en route to this very gaudy stat line that you mentioned there. But there were a lot of things to like from it. I mean, I'm not here to break down what Slovenia did right and wrong as a team against the Poles, but I will tell you, if you are looking for good signs from Luka, obviously, you know, the Polish defense was very stacked. They were blitzing Luka, they were double teaming him all over the floor, they were doing all kinds of stuff to make life as hard as possible for Luka in this game. So I think that was pretty clear. And then, from there, you're looking at, what was Luka able to do against all that defensive attention? Gets to the line 18 times. You and I have spoken about this. One of the things you're looking for from, skinny Luka, and to see if it has like a real effect on his play, is the ability to get past that initial line of defense, not have to settle for a mid-range jumper, and get himself to the basket. And that's something, play through contact, draw contact, all that kind of stuff. Luka did that very effectively Thursday against the Polish team. And yes, I understand, Poland is not filled with tons of NBA talent. I don't
And by
actually
teams,
know
you
if
mean
anybody.
any.
Right. I was about to say I don't know if anybody on that team actually um, has even a minute of NBA experience. Their
Yes,
best player is an American expat. So
he does have Jordan Lloyd. He has brief time,
mhm,
brief periods of time. I think like a couple training camps, stuff like that
right,
in the NBA. He's never had much more than like a cup of coffee, but and he really had a terrific
played
game
quite well.
himself.
Yeah.
32 points. But what I thought was interesting too, speaking of that, is just he talked about how Luka is a great player, like full stop. Like he knows how good Luka is. He knows Luka is better than anybody on that team. But in a lot of ways, knowing that is what really focused and motivated them for this game to bring the best
Well,
out of
it makes
themselves.
it easier. It's like you know that he's going to be, so yes, is Luca beating non-NBA players to get to the basket and all that kind of stuff? Yes, he is. There's no question. He is also receiving an inordinate amount of attention. Not that he
No, but
doesn't get double teams in the NBA, not that he doesn't get those kinds of things when he plays. But like you can't overplay Doncic in that in the way that the Polish team did. So like yeah, there is a little bit of a trade-off there. So
no, but I mean, but
when you
he said it like literally. They used like the idea that Luca is better than everyone else, and he knows that, and the whole team knows that Luca is somebody that everyone is expecting to be able to just beat us himself. And he said, quote, as a team, we use that as motivation. You have to be humble, but on the other side, you're going to have to respect us too. Luca is Luca, but there's no more credit and respect that I can give to him. But tonight, our team was better. Like they actually use the idea
oh,
of
sure.
knowing we are up against this elite player as actual motivation in the game.
Well, I'm sure they're going to do that, with most of the teams that they play in the tournament because, in this group, France is loaded with NBA players, and then they play. I think Serbia's in this group. Maybe I forget who is. Israel. At least I haven't looked at their roster, but they certainly have the capacity to put NBA players on that roster. So, Poland is going to have that chip the entire bit. Like I'm much more interested in what that looks like in terms of the opposition that Luka faces, and he looked good. Like just like there's no way, to minimize. He was very effective in this game. He found cutters. He was able to beat the pressure from the Polish defense and go over the top a bunch of times. Like there's one of the things that I find, I put up I retweeted something of a pass that Jokic made in a game, one of these warm-up games. And it was, a couple people were like, I don't get it. Like I've seen Magic Johnson make better passes. Like I've seen Jokic make better passes. But what struck me about this was just all the little things that Jokic did in this clip to make that play effective. Luka did a lot of similar things in this game that I saw through these highlights and the clips that I saw. And one of the most striking is his ability to play against a double team with the ball over his head and make very accurate and very long passes over a defense. He found corner shooters 3, 4, 5 times over the course of this game, very high on the floor between the 3-point line and the half court line, ball over his head, scanning that way and able to find the open man and hitting these guys with pinpoint accuracy from everywhere on the court. And like, those are the kinds of plays that don't get the same amount of attention as behind the back or the crazy Luka passes where it looks like, he's throwing it over his head and you can't quite figure out the direction that the ball even came out. But that to me is a sign of a guy that is very well dialed into what he's doing with these plays where the ball is, doesn't matter the type of pressure he's receiving, the ball gets to the open man and punishes the opposing defense. So he looked like a very good version of Luka Dončić to me.
He also too was working defensively. And obviously defending Polish non-NBA players is not the same thing as defending elite NBA players, but you can only play the games that are in front of you. And this is something that a lot of his Slovenian teammates have talked about, just like that this version of Luka has been more communicative defensively. He's been more engaged. Like he is taking that side of the ball, I don't want to say necessarily more seriously, but more of like a dialed in responsibility and something like on his checklist of, if I'm the best player on a team, this is something that I need to display accountability on this level. I mean, on this side of the ball on some level, not necessarily as the best defender on my team, not necessarily as a shutdown guy, but just there is accountability for me that I have to display on some types of tangible levels.
Yeah, it's just I think that it's the engagement. We talk about engagement all the time. And so the level of engagement that he had on that side of the ball was very high. And like obviously Slovenia is going to need that if they're going to have a chance to compete against these teams. They are not, even with Luka, considered one of the stronger teams in the tournament. And so they need him on both sides of the ball. And so it was a very strong game. We talk a little bit more about it. Plus, an interesting interview that Jeanie Buss gave to Slovenian radio, I guess it was, where she talked about Luka's arrival in LA and how unusual it was. We'll get to that next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Game Time, and college football is back, and there is honestly nothing better than the energy of tailgates and being in the stands with your fellow fans. And you're trying to get tickets. You got to deal with these endless queues, hidden fees, the prices that jump out at the checkout. Like that's the only downside of this whole thing. If you weren't using Game Time, it's the app that gives you the advantage right back to you, the fan. It's the easiest way to score last minute tickets at the best prices, no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. Pull up Game Time, just a couple taps. You'll see amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games as low as $25. The app makes it super simple to use. You can even see the exact view from your seats before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go download Game Time today.
So we noted, Andy, the wisdom of the Lakers arriving in the Lakers Brain Trust, I should say, arriving in Poland to support Luka as the Slovenian team was preparing for these games. Jeanie stopped to do a little media while she was there because, hey, both, again, supporting Luka, telling stories and all that kind of stuff, but as well, promote the brand. Get out there and make the Lakers the biggest story in all of Europe. And so in doing so, it was quite interesting, some of the stuff that came out of this interview in terms of really going over how unusual and reinforce how unusual the circumstances were for Luka Doncic's arrival. It was really unlike anything the Lakers have ever managed, I think, to pull off.
Yeah, Jeanie said during this interview, quote, "Nobody knew the trade was going to happen. I knew, but he didn't know." And because of this, Jeanie noted, "I've never had a player come to the Lakers and be as sad as he was because the trade was such a huge surprise to him." She then added, "He's a real person. He had to process what happened. I think now he's embraced the Lakers and he's all about LA. We've seen this in the commitment Luka obviously made by signing the extension, but also the way he has recruited players for this team, DeAndre Ayton, Marcus Smart, the way he has made charitable donations in the community. Like the way he keeps talking about the Lakers in future tense and like the things that he wants to do with the Lakers, not just next season, but big picture, talking about Mark Walter, Jeanie Buss. Like he seems to be constantly talking about the Lakers with big, far-reaching vision. Jeanie also mentioned something too that I had never heard about, and it kind of says something just because you and I have been covering this team for a long time. It's kind of our job to know as much as we can about the Lakers, which means by definition, knowing as much as we can about Kobe. And this was new. She said, quote, "The last time I saw Kobe Bryant, he brought his daughter Gianna to the Lakers game to see Luka play because Luka was Gianna's favorite player." And, she's talking about that famous game where Kobe, unbeknownst to Luka, was there. And then he started bleep talking to him from the courtside seats in Slovenian. And Luka turns around and he's like, "What the hell is going on?" And he sees that it's Kobe. They dap up. They're excited to see each other. And she said, so they've always been connected in some way. And I knew that if the opportunity to have somebody like Luka on the Lakers, and it would all work out. I did not know that there was that. I knew that Kobe liked Luka, respected his game. Obviously, everybody's seen that clip a million times of them interacting. I did not know, though, that they were at the game in very large part because that was Gigi's favorite player.
I thought I'd heard that before, but I had not. I don't know.
I had not.
It's interesting to hear it. I mean, that was, kind of a cool story, just to talk about the connection there, especially to, when you start to find the threads between great Lakers players and Lakers franchise players, and things like that. And so, that was a cool story for Jeanie to tell. I just was struck by that idea of a guy being traded to Lakers and being sad. That is not normally the reaction that you hear about when that happens. And so, it's interesting to see that, because even surprise trades, you go back to the Pau Gasol deal, for example, that was not a trade people saw coming. I remember,
but it's one Pau wanted,
right? That's
he wanted to get the hell out of there.
You and I were pulling into the parking lot, the facility in El Segundo, when that news came down. It was like, oh my God. And so it was a shock to everyone that this happened. But Pau couldn't pack his bags fast enough to get himself to Los Angeles. It is unusual to hear a player get traded to LA and be sad about it. Not mixed feelings, but and that explains so much of what was going on last year and the challenge for Luka to get back on the floor when he was overcoming an injury, to learn a new roster and get used to playing with LeBron and get used to playing with, JJ Redick drawing up the plays instead of Jason Kidd and doing all these things. And then it's right, he's a person. He has to deal with the range of emotions, Andy, that comes with that level of shock. It's turned out okay. And I think, he said it himself, Luka has, you kind of over time, you get used to it. You start, the shock passes, you can start to process it. But those first few weeks, it's not surprising when you put all of those things together that Luka didn't just show up in Los Angeles and kick everyone's ass instantly.
Yeah, especially too with Dallas doing such a negative campaign with him out the door. I mean, really, in a lot of ways, it's not even a byproduct. I think it was by design a humiliation factor from Dallas towards Luka on the way out. They wanted to message, this guy is too irresponsible. We cannot trust him.
Well, they were trying at the very, I don't know if they were trying, if the intention was to humiliate Luka, as their primary, idea. It was to cover their own ass. And the only way they could do this type of was to humiliate Luka.
Right. This type of messaging is humiliating. And given some of the negativity that we've seen coming out of Dallas in the reporting details ever since the trade, I mean, I'm not going to say that humiliation was their number one goal, but it was clearly something that they were okay with.
Correct. They 100% agree with that.
They were willing to go there. It's not
that was a side effect of them having to protect their position so to speak, they were absolutely happy to do it.
I mean, I think to some degree they were looking to do it because in order to justify a trade like that that nobody saw coming, and while they were obviously covering their asses, as you noted, the negative reaction to the degree that it was even took them by surprise.
Well, we're basically saying the same thing.
This was a low point for Luka that he needed to get
and
through.
I think that's the important thing to remember is like it was a staggering trade by NBA standards. It's a massive high point for the Lakers as an organization, but for Luka on a personal level, it didn't. You can again. I'll use Powell as a comparison. Like that was a surprise and a great one. Fantastic. Let's go. This one was a surprise, same destination, going to play with LeBron, competitive team, all that stuff. It wasn't a huge step backwards from a basketball standpoint, but from a personal standpoint, it felt like a betrayal and a shock and all of these other things. And, to pile on what Dallas did, trying to, bad-mouthing him to try to justify the deal on the way out only makes it worse. But that also makes it better for the Lakers because now he's even angrier. One of the interesting questions that I know we get a lot, whether it's in the mailbag or on Twitter at Cam Brothers on the chat board when we do these live shows, is whether or not Austin Reaves would be better off coming off the bench. You had a very interesting conversation with a Locked On colleague this week, Andy, on your ESPN show. So we'll get to all that next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season's almost here. FanDuel is making sure you are ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. $5. And if your bet wins, you get $300. Whoa. In bonus bets to use across the app. I love FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, using the same game parlay, even jumping in live as the action unfolds. So it makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. Brian and I just did our draft for that tonight. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. So you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app by visiting FanDuel.com. Get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
Do want to let people know, Andy, that the Locked On Network has a favor to ask you. We've put together a survey to learn more about the listeners to the network, not just our show, the Locked On Lakers podcast, but also all the other podcasts that you listen to around the network. It's your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't like, and I think this one is critical for a lot of people. Answer questions about our advertising. That's something we get a lot of mail about. So go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can enter to win a chance to get one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Find the link in the show notes as well. We appreciate it, and so do our bosses. It is a question that I just don't think is going to stop. The idea, as the Lakers figure out who that fifth starter is going to be, there is a strong contingent of Lakers fans, Andy, who think that that people like us are just asking the question wrong with, how we're even framing the thing and who that fifth starter should be.
This mailbag question from Joey Ohio 91. Does Austin Reaves come off the bench or start? Can he be the sixth man of the year? And I've talked about this before. I think ultimately it's not going to happen because of the small p politics that go with Austin being in a contract year. We know he is going to opt out of his contract in 2026, and there's a lot of teams projected to have some free agency money, so there could be some competition. The Lakers seem very outwardly to want to keep Austin for a while. They've frankly had opportunities in the past to trade him, and I've been critical at times for them, if nothing else, not seeming, I think, open enough to at least exploring the idea. Like I've said it before, I think they have often over coveted Austin as a player, even though I do think, full stop, Austin is a very good player. But there is that question of him and Luka as a long-term fit together, potentially as two of your highest paid players, when they have a lot of the same weaknesses, a lot of the same deficiencies, things that you would need to compensate for. And in the meantime, just I feel like, and we've seen evidence of it, that the best way to build around Luka is often, I think, to give him as many players as possible who don't share the same weaknesses that he have, that that he has, that can offset some of the defensive issues or the athleticism, provide him with the catch and shoot options and the defensive players and that back line of defense, different things like that, and just how practical this is going to be for the Lakers moving forward. You could also, I think, make an argument that there is just some redundancy with LeBron, Luka, and Austin in a starting lineup together, offensively in some of their roles. What was interesting, though, is Matt Moore from Locked On Nuggets and Locked On NBA was on my weekly ESPN LA Lakers show, Lakers Talk. And I asked him, we were just previewing the Lakers season, going through the offseason, stuff like that. And I asked him, we were talking about Marcus Smart and whether or not he would start Marcus Smart over Rui, which is the way this is commonly framed as a question. Theoretical, if for no other reason than, like I said, nobody expects the Lakers would actually play Austin off the bench. So it's like a non-issue. This was Matt's response, and I thought it was really interesting.
More and Luka Dončić on the floor, you are in a really good position from a net rating perspective. Like I lean more actually towards, I know this is sacrilege, but I actually love the idea of bringing Reaves off the bench and making him your six-man Manu Ginobili type player, because that I think is really interesting.
That is, I've talked about this on that before on this show, on Locked On Lakers. I think you can make an argument for it in a vacuum.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of small p politics that are going to get in the way of that, with Austin being in a contract year, with the Lakers very outwardly signaling that they would like to keep him long term. I think that they have over coveted. I think Austin's a very good player, just to be clear. I think he's very good. I think he's somewhere like top 50-ish in the league, but I do think they have at times over coveted him, and I think, love his story. They love him. I have concerns about him and Luka as a foundation being built around moving forward, especially once Austin is no longer, one of the best contracts in the league. But in a vacuum, I think you could make that argument for Austin. In reality, I would be shocked if it happened.
Yeah, me too. I mean, just the politics side of it, because there is this concern like he'll just walk. But I think of this new CBA, when you're seeing what's happened to restricted free agents, and Austin's not part of that crew, but like when you look at restricted free agents and how they're getting squeezed and all these other situations where players are getting squeezed, it justifies a little bit more making these types of moves to drive down his value. And if he punishes you by being like, you try to drive down my value, and the Charlotte Hornets offer me $35 million a year. Okay, well, at $35 million, you don't want him anyway. He could get that offer anyway. So do what you can to make, one, your team better, and two, drive down the value, because that's what the CBA is built to demand of you as a team.
The idea of driving down the value just because this CBA, which the owners all voted for and created, in a lot of ways put teams in a position to do this sort of stuff, where it's like, look, man, our hands are tied because we tied them ourselves. But then also the idea that once you start getting into, say, 35 plus million from Charlotte or whoever, the theoretical Charlotte, you don't want to pay him that anyway. Like that could start becoming a mistake as it is. So for the betterment of the team, which Matt was framing, this is something that he thought Austin could actually help the Lakers by coming off the bench, but also just the idea of, look, at a certain point, you want to say no anyway. I just thought it was an interesting way of looking at it. If nothing else, an interesting way of talking about these decisions that get forced by the new CBA.
Yeah, I agree. There will be more teams with cap space next year than there are this year, even as teams, inevitably things happen. Like part of the reason some of these guys, the Kuminga thing is stretching on, and still don't think Cam Thomas has signed anything in Brooklyn. Guys like that, there's nowhere for any of these guys to go. And so they're all making decisions based in part on potentially having more space available next year. Now, if more people end up on the market, then, there's still only going to be a certain amount of chairs, and somebody's going to be left without one, even after the proverbial music stops. So, yeah, I mean, I think you can start to try to game out a little bit of like what the life is going to look like. I wouldn't do that with Reaves. It's a bad way to do business. I wouldn't do things that intentionally drive down a player's value. I think it's just a terrible idea. Because it's not just bad for your relationship with that free agent, it's bad for your relationship with other players too, because they don't want to go. The guys can see what you did and all of that. Here's the other thing about it though. Manu Ginobili, let's say he plays a Manu Ginobili like role on the team next year, wins a 6th Man of the Year award and all that kind of stuff. That's not going to drive down his value. Like, you can move him to the bench.
I don't know. Actually, I think
you move him if Austin Reaves wins 6th Man of the Year coming off the bench for the Lakers, still plays. He's going to still be playing 30 something minutes a game, 28, 35, whatever it is, and wins 6th Man of the Year because he averages 18, 6 and 5 or whatever, or 18, 5, whatever it is. That he's going to make $35 million next year.
Well, I don't think Matt was counting on him winning 6th Man of the Year, but
my point is,
I understand
that was the question that was asked.
Sure.
And so if the only other option with that, if you really want to drive down his value, what you have to do is cut down his playing time.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, but that's bad for your team.
Sure.
Because
he should play
Austin Reaves.
He needs to play a certain amount of minutes. There's no question.
He needs to play 30. He is. I understand it's not a perfect fit. He's their 3rd best player. Mm-hmm. He is. And so to play him 20 something minutes a game because the fit isn't great, or to really do it because you just want to make it so he's cheaper to sign next year, mm-hmm. is cutting off your nose to spite your face. You're going to win fewer games, and that is a really bad way to do things. So it is an interesting idea, but I also think it's sort of wrong in both premise, because if it works really well, he's still going to make about the same amount of money. And if you really want to do it right, you're losing games. And so Austin Reaves is going to start. If he comes off the bench, okay, whatever, but he's still going to play 32, 33 minutes a game and close almost every game.
Sure.
So,
not like Lamar Odom.
Right. Are you real? I mean, yes, you're not a starter at that point, and that matters, but you're not, a guy who is a bench player at that point. You're just starting in the game on the bench because it fits your rotation better.
Look, at the end of the day, like I've said, I do not think Austin is going to start. And while I think I don't think he's going to come off the bench. And while I think you can make an argument in a vacuum for playing him off the bench, I don't think it is an ironclad argument at all. But what I do think, though, that this question, and maybe we can talk about it more next week, does reinforce is the idea that there are legitimate reasons to question the long-term foundation of Luka and Austin together, unless you can find one or two more very, very high-end defensive level players, if not a true two-way star that moves Austin more to a 3rd or 4th best player on your team. Like, that's something they're going to need to do. Like, if nothing else, it is a reminder of why long-term LeBron, Luka, and Austin, to me, is not a fit that works, because the 3rd guy cannot be somebody that you have questions about their defense as well.
The good news is long-term and LeBron are very difficult things to put them, but I understand what you mean, but it is a challenge the Lakers have to look at, and something we can definitely pick up next week. Quick reminder, 2 games this weekend for Slovenia. They play against France. I believe that's Saturday at it's early. That one's
Yeah.
early, and then Sunday they have a game as well. So both of those games are pretty early. This was
That is
the
against
latest one.
Belgium, I believe.
Yes, this was the latest one. If you missed it on Thursday, you missed the best game for West Coast television. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can hang out with over 36,000 subscribers to the channel. Everyone have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday.